I never thought I'd end up being that guy on Reddit, airing his dirty laundry to strangers on the internet. But here I am, pouring my heart out because frankly, I don't know who else to talk to anymore. My life fell apart like a house of cards, and the person who was supposed to help me rebuild it, my wife of 15 years, was the one who knocked it down in the first place. Kelsey and I met when we were both in our late 20s. She was bold, confident, the type of woman who walks into a room and owns it without even trying. I was quieter. Steady. A planner. Where she was the spark, I was the steady flame. We balanced each other out. At least, that's what I thought. We got married after 3 years together and built a life that, from the outside, probably looked solid. Mortgage, 1 daughter, 2 cars, vacations twice a year, and matching coffee mugs that said, Mr. Always Right, and Mrs. Never Wrong. Cute, right? Except I didn't realize that little joke would become her actual philosophy. About a year ago, things started to feel off. Kelsey was always busy. Work became hectic. She stayed late. Business trips popped up more often. She took extra care with her appearance for client meetings, but started rolling her eyes when I asked her to watch a movie with me on a Friday night. Her phone was glued to her hand, always face down, and suddenly, she had a new password. She never used to lock her phone. At first, I gave her space. I'm not some controlling guy. I figured, maybe she's just stressed. I even tried to help more around the house, took over school drop-offs, did the laundry, cooked more often. Instead of appreciation, I got complaints. You loaded the dishwasher wrong. You didn't buy the almond milk I like. You're smothering me. That one stuck with me. I asked her a few times if she was okay, if we were okay. She'd sigh and say things like, "It's not you. I'm just exhausted," or "Stop making everything about yourself." She said I was paranoid. Needy. Jealous. At one point, she even accused me of cheating, which was laughable considering I spent 90% of my time either at work or home. Then came the night that flipped the switch for me. She got home late, again. Said she was working on a proposal with her team and they all went out for drinks afterward. I didn't argue. I just nodded, said there was food in the microwave, and went to bed. The next morning, I went to move her car in the driveway because we were having some landscaping done, and that's when I saw it, a receipt tucked into the center console. It wasn't from some bar or chain restaurant. It was from a little riverside bistro we used to go to on special occasions. A place we hadn't been to in years. I unfolded the slip and saw 2 entries, a bottle of Mellow, and a dessert. The timestamp. 8:13 p.m., smack in the middle of her work meeting. But that wasn't even the worst part. On the back, in handwriting that definitely wasn't hers, someone had written, "Until next time, beautiful." I just stood there in the garage, gripping that paper like it might burst into flames. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. I was half hoping there was some explanation, something innocent. Maybe it was a client dinner and someone had been overly friendly. Maybe it was a group setting and I was jumping to conclusions. But I knew. You know when your gut starts screaming at you? That was me, standing in the driveway, heart pounding, palms sweating, trying to keep my breathing steady so I wouldn't wake her up and demand answers I wasn't ready to hear. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I pocketed the receipt and started watching. I mean really watching. And what I found only confirmed what I had feared. After I found that receipt, everything changed. It was like a switch flipped in my brain, and suddenly I was analyzing every word, every glance, every excuse. The worst part. Once you suspect someone is lying to you, you realize how many lies they tell. Kelsey's work trips became more frequent. Always last minute, always vague. She'd pack a single small suitcase with lingerie she hadn't worn for me in years, and when I asked about it, she'd laugh it off. Can't a woman feel sexy in a hotel by herself? I started tracking things. Not obsessively at first, just little notes in my phone. Dates, locations, excuses. I even went so far as to mark the mileage on her car once. It was 47 miles higher than it should have been when she said she only drove to a meeting and back. And when I brought that up, she exploded. Told me I was being controlling. Accused me of being abusive. She cried. Said I was making her feel unsafe in her own home. I apologized. Apologized. Because that's what you do when you still love someone and want to believe they love you too. But love doesn't leave hickeys on your neck from a business trip. That was the final straw. She came back from a supposed seminar in Denver. First night home, she changed in the bathroom, as usual. Later that night, she was asleep, and I noticed a red mark just under her ear. I brushed her hair back and stared at it like it was some kind of alien brand. I took a picture with my phone while she slept. The next morning, I asked about it. She touched it, looked in the mirror, and laughed nervously. Must have been my curling iron. You're really reaching now. I didn't say anything. Just nodded. But that night, I contacted a friend who works in IT. He owed me a favor. I asked if he could help me access deleted messages or backup files from Kelsey's phone if I got it to him. It took 3 days to get a solid chance. She left it on the charger in the bathroom when she went for a jog. I grabbed it, met my friend, and gave him an hour. What he showed me felt like a bullet to the soul. Hundreds of texts between her and a contact saved as L. Explicit messages. Photos. Travel plans. Talk of how he doesn't suspect a thing and how it's almost over, I promise. There were messages about me. Mocking me. Comparing me to him. Saying how I was comfortable and safe but not passionate. She said, I feel alive with you. With him, I just feel stuck. That night, I sat in the driveway for an hour before walking in. I looked at our house, our lawn with the Halloween decorations, the front porch we painted together, the window where our daughter used to wait for us to come home from date nights, and I felt sick. I didn't say anything to Kelsey. Not yet. I wanted to confront her the right way. Publicly. Coldly. I wanted her to feel the gut punch for once. So I started planning. And the plan started with a DNA test. You see, there's one thing I haven't mentioned yet, our daughter, MIA. She's 14. And recently, someone made a joke at a family gathering about how she doesn't really look like me. It was brushed off, but that little voice in my head, the same one that told me to look at that receipt, said, you need to know. And when I got that result, my entire reality shattered. The day the DNA results came in, I didn't open the envelope right away. I let it sit on my nightstand for 2 days. Every time I looked at it, my chest tightened. I was terrified of what it might say. Because if MIA wasn't mine, it meant my entire life was a lie. When I finally opened it, I felt numb. It was like I already knew what I'd see, but hoped, just hoped, I was wrong. But I wasn't. The results were clear, 0% probability of paternity. 14 years of bedtime stories, scraped knees, soccer games, and science projects. 14 years of being the dad who always showed up. None of it mattered in the face of that single piece of paper. According to science, I wasn't her father. I couldn't breathe. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, staring at the test, trying to make sense of it. Trying to remember if there was ever a moment, back then, when I had any doubt. But no, when Kelsey told me she was pregnant, she cried and hugged me like it was the best moment of her life. Said it was a surprise but a blessing. I believed her. That night, I watched her sleep again. And for the first time in 15 years, I didn't feel love. I felt nothing. Just a cold, detached curiosity. How long have you been lying to me? The next morning, I didn't say a word. Just got up, made coffee, kissed MIA on the forehead like I always did, and went to work. But everything had changed. I wasn't going to confront her until I had a full plan. This wasn't going to be a screaming match in our kitchen. No. I wanted her to feel what I felt. I wanted it to be unforgettable. I got the paperwork started. Divorce. Custody waivers. Asset breakdown. Quietly, without her knowing, I moved half our money into a separate account. I consulted a lawyer, a really good one. Told him everything. He didn't blink. Said I wasn't the first client in this position, and I sure as hell wouldn't be the last. He even had a suggestion I hadn't considered, gathering evidence that Kelsey's relationship with Elle predated Mia's birth. If we could prove that, it could shift everything in court. Meanwhile, at home, Kelsey continued playing the part. She'd come home late, lie to my face, and sleep like a baby next to me. The audacity. The sheer boldness of it made my skin crawl. Then one night, I came home early from work. Surprise audit at her office meant she'd actually have to be there, right? Wrong. Her car wasn't in the lot. She wasn't answering texts. So I drove to that same Riverside restaurant, the one from the receipt. And there she was. Sitting on the patio. Laughing, leaning into him like a teenager in love. He was maybe 5 or 6 years younger than me. Muscular. Dressed like a wannabe tech bro. No ring. I didn't confront them. Not yet. I snapped a photo, turned around, and walked to my car. My hands were shaking. I wasn't even angry anymore. Just empty. That night, I emailed the picture to my lawyer. The subject line just said, validation. 2 days later, Kelsey dropped the final bomb. It was a Thursday evening, just after dinner. Mia had gone to her friends for a sleepover, so it was just the two of us in the house. Kelsey came down the stairs in a fitted blouse and jeans, hair done, makeup flawless. She looked calm. Too calm. I think we should talk, she said, not even making eye contact. I just nodded and sat down at the kitchen table. She stood across from me with her arms folded, like she was preparing to deliver a quarterly report. I've been unhappy for a long time, she began, as if she was reading from a script. We've grown apart. You don't challenge me anymore. There's no excitement. You've become predictable. She said it all without a hint of emotion. Like she was trying to convince herself it was my fault. I've met someone else, she continued, finally looking me in the eye. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. And I'm not going to apologize for following my heart. Following your heart. What a hallmark way to describe cheating. She slid an envelope across the table. Inside? Divorce papers. I already filed, she said, like she was offering me the weather report. My lawyer says if we do this cleanly, it'll be less painful for everyone. I'm asking for the house, the car, and full custody. You can keep your pension and your tools. My tools. My tools. I just stared at her. No yelling. No tears. Just silence. She seemed surprised. That's it, she said. You're not going to fight me. I smiled. I actually smiled. No, I said quietly. You can have it. That was the moment she lost her smug little smirk. She didn't know it, but she'd just walked into a trap I'd spent weeks building. Over the next 2 weeks, I gave her everything she asked for. Signed every document. Didn't flinch when she paraded around the house on the phone with her boyfriend, making plans to move in together. I even helped carry some of her boxes to the car. She thought she'd won. She thought she'd broken me. And then came the night of their big celebration. Our favorite restaurant, the one from the receipt, from the photo, from all the lies, was where they decided to toast their fresh start. I knew they'd be there. She even bragged about it to Mia, like it was some reward for being brave enough to follow your truth. So I dressed up, walked in, and spotted them laughing in our usual booth. She saw me and froze. Her boyfriend turned, clearly amused. I walked over to the table, calm and collected. Congratulations on your freedom, I said, sliding a sealed envelope across the table. "What's this?" she asked, clearly thrown off. "Just something to remember me by." She opened it. Her eyes scanned the paper. First confusion. Then horror. The DNA results. Front and center. Proof MIA wasn't mine. Her boyfriend's smirk vanished. "I thought you should know," I said. "She's not mine. But maybe she's yours. Might want to get that checked." I turned and walked away, the sound of her voice cracking behind me. But I didn't look back. I didn't go home after that restaurant scene. I drove aimlessly for a while, hands still trembling even though I felt lighter. Lighter than I had in months. Maybe years. It wasn't just the act of exposing her. It was the closure. The silent, undeniable proof that I wasn't crazy. That everything I had suspected, everything I had endured, it was all real. And she knew it now. He knew it now. And most importantly, I didn't have to carry it anymore. By the time I got back to their house, which was still legally mine, by the way, she jumped the gun and assumed I'd hand it over without a fight. Kelsey had already called me 7 times and left 2 voicemails. Her tone shifted dramatically. Gone was the cold, confident woman who had delivered divorce papers like a queen's decree. Instead, she sounded frantic. "I can't believe you did that in public. What the hell is wrong with you? We need to talk. Not like this, please. You're hurting everyone. And finally, MIA deserves better than this. Call me back. Now." Right. Now she's worried about MIA. I ignored every call. The next morning, I turned my phone on to 32 missed calls. Some from Kelsey. Some from her family. Even one from her boyfriend, or should I say, ex-boyfriend. The message he left was short and to the point. "Tell your wife to leave me the hell alone." That made me laugh harder than I had in months. By noon, Kelsey showed up at the house. She banged on the front door like she was about to kick it in. I opened it slowly, just wide enough for her to see I wasn't interested in theatrics. "Can we talk?" she asked, mascara smudged, eyes puffy. "I don't see the point," I said, voice flat. "She's still your daughter," she snapped. "You're still her father." That hit me like a brick. Because part of me agreed. Biology or not, I had raised MIA. I taught her how to ride a bike. Held her through ear infections. Helped her with school projects. Went to every parent-teacher conference. I was her father, until her mother decided I wasn't worth the truth. But I said nothing. She stepped inside without being invited, pacing. It was one mistake. I was scared. I didn't even know for sure back then. I laughed. I couldn't help it. One mistake. You carried that mistake for 14 years. She dropped the act for a second. Her shoulders sagged, and she whispered, "I never wanted to hurt you." "Then why did you?" She didn't have an answer. Just silence. Just guilt. I told her I needed space. That my lawyer would be in touch. She begged me not to drag MIA into this, to not punish her for our failures. And I told her this: you made the choices. All I did was find the truth. As she left, she said something that stuck with me. "You're going to regret this. You're not the man I thought you were." And I replied, "Funny. I was just thinking the same thing about you." Out of everything that happened, this was the part one dreaded most, telling MIA. Not because I didn't think she'd understand, but because she would. Mia's smart. Too smart sometimes. And she sees more than we give her credit for. For a few days, I avoided it. I kept things normal. Made her breakfast, helped her with homework, drove her to soccer practice. But even she noticed I was different. "Are you mad at Mom?" she asked one night, just before bed. "You guys don't talk anymore." I just hugged her and said, "We'll talk soon, okay? I promise." But promises don't delay pain. They just reschedule it. My lawyer advised against telling MIA the full truth until things were official. Don't weaponize the child, he said, and I agreed. This wasn't about revenge anymore, it was about protecting her. Even if that meant hiding how much I was hurting. Then Kelsey beat me to it. One afternoon, MIA came home quiet. Headphones in. Avoiding eye contact. I knew immediately, she knew something. After dinner, I sat next to her on the couch. Want to talk about it? She shrugged. Mom said you don't want to be my dad anymore. My heart dropped. She said you found out I'm not really yours, and now you're leaving. I closed my eyes and took a breath. Look at me, MIA, I said, turning toward her. She hesitated, then pulled her headphones off. Your mom and I are going through some really hard stuff. But none of this is your fault. And no matter what a test says, you're still my daughter. But you're not, she said quietly. I am, I told her, firmer now. I was there when you were born. I held you through fevers. I taught you how to swim. Who tucked you in every night? Who showed up for every school concert? She sniffled. You did. And who's still here? She nodded slowly, her lower lip trembling. I pulled her into a hug, and she clung to me like she did when she was a toddler scared of thunderstorms. I love you, I whispered. That hasn't changed. That will never change. She cried into my chest for a while, then whispered, why did Mom lie? I didn't have a perfect answer. Because sometimes people make mistakes. Big ones. But I promise you this, no matter what happens between your mom and me, I will always show up for you. That night, I sat alone on the porch, replaying the conversation over and over. Kelsey had tried to poison our relationship to save herself. To make me the villain. But the bond between me and MIA wasn't something she could rewrite with guilt or lies. And that's when I knew what I had to do next. After MIA went to bed that night, I called my lawyer and told him I was ready to move forward, with full custody. At first, he was cautious. You understand that from a legal standpoint, without biological ties, it's not a guaranteed win, he said. But I had already done my research. Over the years, I'd been listed as her father on every document. I was on the birth certificate. I was the primary caregiver. And I had a house full of evidence that I had always been the stable, consistent parent. More importantly, MIA wanted to stay with me. She trusted me. So we built our case. Meanwhile, Kelsey was unraveling. The once calm, calculated woman I had known was now frantic. She blew up my phone daily with a cocktail of guilt, rage, manipulation, and sudden affection. One text would say, we can fix this if you'd just talk to me. The next, you'll ruin MIA if you keep dragging her into this. You're not thinking straight. And finally, L and I broke up. He says I'm too dramatic. I hope you're happy. I didn't respond to a single one. My silence drove her crazy, but I wasn't interested in trading jabs anymore. This wasn't a high school breakup. This was war, and I had already chosen the battlefield, court. One afternoon, I got an unexpected visit from her older sister, Lauren. We'd always gotten along, and she'd been oddly quiet throughout the whole mess. She showed up with coffee, sat down across from me at the kitchen table, and sighed. She told me everything, she said. I'm not here to defend her. I just needed to say, I'm sorry. That caught me off guard. I knew something was going on years ago, Lauren continued. But she told me you were controlling. That you'd never believe her if she wanted out. I believed her. I shouldn't have. I appreciated her honesty. And then she dropped a bombshell. MIA might not be the only one. What do you mean? There were others. Before L. Maybe even during the first few years of your marriage. She used to brag about the attention she got at work. Said she deserved it since you weren't exciting enough. I clenched my jaw. I don't know if all of it's true, Lauren added quickly. But I thought you should hear it from someone who's not trying to destroy you. After she left, I sat in the living room in complete silence. More affairs. More lies. How long had I been living in this illusion? But even with that new knowledge, I felt steady. Because the worst was already behind me. I knew the truth now. And the more lies that came to the surface, the more I realized I had made the right call in letting her go. There was just one more thing I had to do, something symbolic. Something final. And I knew exactly where to go. A week after Lauren's visit, I took a long drive out to a cabin I used to rent before I met Kelsey. It was tucked away near the edge of a forest, by a small lake we used to fish at when I was a kid. It wasn't fancy, no Wi-Fi, no TV, no distractions. Just peace. I brought a duffel bag with me. Inside, old photo albums, anniversary cards, the wedding video DVD, a framed picture of our honeymoon, and the stupid Mr. and Mrs. mugs. 15 years of memories, reduced to a pile of emotional shrapnel. I made a fire in the old stone pit behind the cabin. Sat in front of it with a flask of bourbon and started feeding it one piece at a time. Our wedding photo. The first Valentine's Day card she gave me. A birthday note that said, "You're my forever." Forever. That was the word that broke me. The fire crackled, and smoke curled upward into the night sky. With each item that turned to ash, I felt lighter. Not healed. Not whole. But free. I left the DVD for last. Tossed it in whole. I wanted to hear it crack and melt. Then I sat there for an hour, staring at the flames. No tears. Just quiet acceptance. That woman. She was gone long before she handed me the divorce papers. I just didn't want to see it. The next morning, I drove back with an empty duffel and a strange sense of clarity. When I got home, I found an envelope on the porch. No stamp, just my name scribbled on the front. I opened it and immediately recognized Kelsey's handwriting. The letter was 3 pages long. Rambling. Apologetic in tone, but still full of deflection. I never meant to hurt you. I didn't know how to tell you the truth. You were always good to me, and I didn't feel like I deserved it. MIA still needs both of us. Please don't turn her against me. She ended it with, "I'll always love you in some way." That line pissed me off more than anything. In some way? After everything? I didn't reply. I scanned the letter and sent a copy to my lawyer, just in case. Later that day, I sat down with MIA again. This time, she had questions. Big ones. Why did Mom lie for so long? Is she still my mom? Are you still my dad? I answered the best I could. Yes, she's your mom. That doesn't change, no matter how angry we are. And I'm still your dad. Not because a test says so, but because I always chose to be. She nodded. And then asked something I wasn't ready for. Do you still love her? I thought about it for a long moment. Then I said, I loved the person I thought she was. But that person wasn't real. And I can't love a lie. She leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, I'm glad you're not leaving. Neither am I, kid. Neither am I. The divorce proceedings moved quickly after that. Kelsey, once smug and sure she'd walk away with everything, started to panic the moment the custody battle became real. She hadn't expected me to fight for MIA, not with the DNA results. She thought she had me cornered. But what she didn't understand was this: biology makes a person, but love makes a parent. And I had years' worth of proof. My lawyer submitted a thick packet of documents. Photos, school forms, medical records, report cards with my signature, teachers' notes thanking me for volunteering, all showing I was the consistent, reliable parent. MIA even wrote a statement, in her own words, saying she wanted to live with me. I didn't ask her to do it. She brought it to me and said, I want the judge to know the truth. When Kelsey found out, she exploded. She called me screaming. You turned her against me. You're brainwashing her. No, I said. You did that all on your own. Then she tried a different tactic: guilt. You know how hard it is to be a woman in this world. To juggle motherhood, marriage, and a career. I needed more. I deserved to feel alive again. I let her rant. Then, calmly, I said, "You didn't need to destroy me in the process." She hung up. The custody hearing was brutal. Her lawyer painted me as emotionally detached, hyper-controlling, cold and vengeful. They claimed I only pursued custody to punish her. But Mia's testimony, delivered with quiet strength, cut through all of it. "I want to live with my dad," she said. "He's always been there. Even when things were bad with Mom, he never made me feel like it was my fault." Kelsey sobbed through most of it. But it didn't move the judge. In the end, I was awarded primary custody. Kelsey would get supervised visits at first, with the possibility of more time if she proved stable. When we walked out of the courthouse, Kelsey didn't even look at me. She kept her sunglasses on and pushed past us, not saying a word. Mia took my hand. "Can we go get pancakes?" We did. And for the first time in months, we laughed over breakfast. But just when I thought things were finally settling, I got a phone call that shook the ground all over again. It wasn't from Kelsey. It was from a man named Andrew. And he had a story of his own to tell about my wife. The call came late, just after 10 p.m. I almost didn't answer. Unknown number, no voicemail. But something told me to pick it up when it rang again. "Is this Daniel?" their voice asked cautiously. "Yeah." "Who's this?" A long pause. "My name's Andrew. I think we need to talk. It's about Kelsey." The name didn't ring any bells. "Okay, what's this about?" "She was involved with my brother. L." My stomach clenched. He continued, "He's the guy you exposed her with at the restaurant. But that's not the whole story. She didn't just date him. She destroyed him." I sat down, heart racing. "Go on." Andrew explained that his brother, Liam, had met Kelsey on a dating app, thinking she was recently divorced. She told him I was abusive, controlling, that I cheated on her for years and left her broke and abandoned. She played the victim perfectly. She was charming, smart, manipulative as hell, Andrew said. My brother bought every word of it. He even offered to help pay for her legal fees to free her from the toxic marriage. He was planning to propose. Jesus. Andrew said Liam crashed hard after the restaurant reveal. Left his job. Blocked Kelsey. Fell into a deep depression. He's in therapy now. Trying to come to terms with the fact that he was used. That she lied about everything. I could only sit there in stunned silence. She does this, Andrew added. You weren't the first. Liam wasn't the first either. I did some digging, and man, she's left a trail. He mentioned 2 other names. One was a co-worker from 5 years ago. Another? A married man from her old gym. Both stories matched the pattern. Kelsey played the role of damsel, got close, exploited sympathy, got what she needed, attention, gifts, money, and moved on when things got too real. I felt sick. She needs help, Andrew said. But I figured you deserved to know the whole picture. I've read your story online, your post. You're not crazy. You're just the one who finally stood up. We talked for a while. Swapped more stories. More details. It was surreal, like 2 survivors of the same storm comparing wreckage. After I hung up, I just sat there in the dark, staring at nothing. I thought back to every moment I questioned myself. Every time she gaslit me. Twisted the narrative. Made me doubt my instincts, my sanity, my worth. And now, hearing it from someone else's mouth, a total stranger, I finally felt something new. Relief. I wasn't the broken one. I wasn't the weak one. I was just one of the ones who got away. After the call with Andrew, something shifted in me. I'd spent so long holding on to guilt, doubt, shame, wondering if I'd failed somehow as a husband, or if I missed something early on that would have prevented this entire mess. But now? Now I saw her clearly. Kelsey wasn't just flawed. She was calculated. And she'd been this way for years. She didn't just make a mistake, she made a career out of manipulation. With that clarity came purpose. I started cleaning house, literally and metaphorically. I boxed up everything that still tied her to my life. Old clothes, photos, trinkets, things that once had sentimental value. Even the wall art she picked out. Every little piece of her presence I could remove, I did. I dropped most of it off at a donation center. The rest? Trash. It felt like purging poison from a wound. Then I turned my attention to my inner circle. I reached out to friends I'd pulled away from. Guys I hadn't seen in months because I was too busy or going through stuff. I told them the truth. Not all the gory details, but enough. To my surprise, most of them already suspected something. One even said, "Dude, we didn't want to say anything, but she treated you like a doormat. I honestly thought you were just checked out." Maybe I was. Maybe I let things slide for too long, hoping love would fix it all. But now? I wasn't hoping anymore. I was rebuilding. MIA started smiling again. She got more talkative at dinner. She asked to invite friends over. Her laughter, real laughter, returned to their house like sunlight through storm clouds. She even asked if we could repaint her room now that things are finally different. I said yes, of course. We made a weekend project of it, blasting music, getting paint everywhere, eating pizza off paper plates on the floor. And for the first time, we weren't just surviving. We were living. Kelsey, meanwhile, was unraveling fast. She sent long, late-night texts about how everything was spinning out of control. Her job was at risk, turns out. Word about her side activities had gotten around. One of her exes had sent evidence of inappropriate behavior to HR. I didn't know the details, and I didn't care to. She begged for another chance. She said she still loved me. She said we could fix it if we just went to therapy. But therapy can't cure a liar who doesn't want to stop lying. So I did the most honest thing I could. I blocked her number. All of them. Emails too. I told MIA, gently, that her mom needed space to figure out her own life, and that until then, would keep things stable and safe here. She nodded. Didn't cry. She just said, "Okay, Dad." And then she hugged me. I realized in that moment that I hadn't just saved myself. I'd saved her too. 3 months after the court hearing, our lives found a new rhythm. It was quieter now. No more tension at dinner. No more passive-aggressive comments. No more late nights waiting for someone who no longer respected the home she came back to. MIA started doing better in school. Her teachers emailed me, saying they noticed a positive shift in her mood and focus. I told them we'd made some changes at home. That was all they needed to hear. We filled our time with small things that mattered: Saturday morning pancakes, board games, weekend hikes. She started opening up to me about school drama, crushes, her dreams. I realized I hadn't just gained my freedom, I'd earned a deeper connection with my daughter than I ever expected. But healing is never a straight line. One evening, out of nowhere, MIA asked, "Do you think Mom will ever come back?" I paused. "You mean, come back to the house? Or come back to being a real mom?" She shrugged. "Both, I guess." I looked at her for a moment, trying to gauge where the question was coming from. I could see in her eyes that she still loved her mother. Of course she did. That kind of bond doesn't vanish overnight, no matter how broken. "I don't know what her future looks like," I said. "But I do know this: we can't control her choices. We can only control ours." She nodded, but her voice cracked when she whispered, "I miss who she used to be." I pulled her close and said something I hadn't even said aloud until then. So do I, kiddo. Every day. But the person she used to be. I think that version of her is gone. We sat in silence for a while after that. Just a father and daughter, grieving something they both lost, even if it didn't die in the physical sense. Kelsey hadn't contacted MIA in weeks. No texts. No calls. No birthday card, even though MIA turned 15 last month. I could see it hurt her, even though she tried to act like it didn't. I didn't push. I didn't trash talk her mom. I just stayed present. A few days later, I got an email from her lawyer. Kelsey had officially signed over all custodial rights. No explanation. No condition. It was done. I sat with that news for a long time. Not sure how to feel. Sad? Vindicated? Empty? In the end, I just felt still. It was over. No more games. No more court dates. No more waiting for the next lie. I was free. We were free. You'd think that once everything was finalized, the divorce, custody, the silence, that it'd feel like the credits were rolling. Like the story ended, fade to black, happily ever after. But the truth is, even when someone leaves your life, their shadow sticks around for a while. Little things would still catch me off guard. A pair of earrings I found behind the dresser while cleaning. A half-empty bottle of her perfume in the bathroom cabinet. The random Spotify playlist she made labeled Us. I couldn't bring myself to delete it, even though every song now felt like a lie. One evening, I was in the garage looking for duct tape and came across a small locked box I hadn't seen in years. Inside were old letters from Kelsey, actual handwritten ones from the early days. Back when she used to leave notes in my lunch, or hide messages in my suitcase before a trip. One read, "You make me feel safe. Like I don't have to pretend anymore." Reading that broke something in me all over again. Because I realized I was her safe place. She just didn't want safety. She wanted the thrill of danger. Of chaos. And she confused love with control, comfort with boredom. Still, I don't regret any of it. Not because she deserved me, but because MIA did. Every choice I made, every time I bit my tongue or gave Kelsey another undeserved chance, it was to keep the family together. To keep Mia's world from crashing down. And now that it had, I could finally start rebuilding it on solid ground. A week after Kelsey officially relinquished custody, MIA and I took a trip. Just the two of us. We drove up to the mountains, stayed in a small cabin, the same one where I burned our past, and spent 3 days disconnected from the world. No phones. No drama. Just us. One night, by the fire, MIA asked, "Do you think you'll ever date again?" It caught me off guard. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I think I still need time to figure out who I am without all the noise." She smiled. "Who you are is a really good dad." I didn't say anything right away, but inside, that one sentence did more to heal me than 1,000 therapy sessions could. Later that night, I watched her fall asleep on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, her hair falling across her face, and I realized something important. This wasn't the end of my story. It was just the start of a better one. It's funny how life has a way of circling back around, bringing you face to face with things you thought you'd buried. About 6 months after everything settled, I ran into Kelsey. Totally unplanned. I was grabbing groceries at a store across town, one I didn't usually shop at, and there she was. In the wine aisle, of all places, looking almost exactly the same, just tired. Smaller somehow. Not physically, but emotionally. Like her edges had worn down. She saw me before I saw her. I could tell by the way she froze, bottle in hand, then quickly pretended to study a label. I could have walked away. Honestly, I considered it. But something in me said no. Not out of spite. Not out of curiosity. But because I wanted to see her. Not the woman I remembered. The one she became. So I walked over. Kelsey. She turned. Gave me a polite smile. It didn't reach her eyes. Hi, Daniel. We stood in silence for a second that felt like an hour. You look good, she said. You look like you've had a rough year. She gave a soft laugh. Yeah. That'd be accurate. Then she surprised me. I'm sorry, she said, quietly. Not just for what I did, but for not being who you needed. Or deserved. I nodded. Not because it fixed anything, but because it was the first honest thing she'd said to me in years. How's MIA? She asked. She's doing great. Stronger than ever. Still painting. Soccer team captain now. Kelsey's eyes watered, but she nodded. I miss her. But I know. I made that choice. You did. I was selfish, she added. I thought love meant being chased. Being worshipped. You gave me peace, and I thought it meant I was settling. I know, I said. I spent years thinking that was my fault. It wasn't, she said firmly. I was broken. And instead of fixing myself, I broke you too. It was the closure I didn't know I needed. I didn't hate her anymore. I pitied her. Because she lost everything trying to fill a hole in herself with validation and drama. And in doing so, she let go of the one thing that ever really anchored her. She placed the wine bottle back on the shelf and turned to leave. Then stopped. Tell MIA, if she ever wants to talk, I'll be here. I'll pass that along. But I won't force it. I wouldn't ask you to. She walked away without looking back. And I stood there, strangely at peace. Because I didn't need revenge. I didn't need her suffering. She had already given me everything I needed, the truth, the freedom, and the chance to finally start living for me. It's been over a year now. The chaos has died down. The dust has settled. And life is quiet. But it's a good kind of quiet. The kind you notice in the early morning, when the coffee's still hot, the world's still asleep, and you realize you've made it through something you weren't sure you could survive. MIA is thriving. Her smile is real again. She's planning for college, thinking about psychology or art therapy. She tells me she wants to help kids figure themselves out, so they don't grow up thinking love has to hurt. I think she's going to change lives. As for me, I've started dating again. Nothing serious yet, just soft beginnings. The kind where you're not trying to replace anyone, you're just learning how to open your heart again without losing yourself in the process. And I've learned a lot. If you're reading this because you think your spouse might be cheating, or lying, or gaslighting you, listen to your gut. That quiet voice. The one they keep telling you is paranoia? That voice is trying to protect you. Don't ignore it. I learned that silence can be powerful. You don't always need to scream to be heard. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away with your dignity intact, and let the truth do the talking for you. I learned that being the nice guy doesn't mean being weak. It means standing firm when your world collapses, staying kind when bitterness would be easier, and loving your children fiercely even when your heart's in pieces. I learned that not all families look like storybooks. Sometimes they get torn apart and rebuilt. And that's okay. Healing isn't perfect, but it's possible. And finally, I learned that closure doesn't come from watching someone suffer. It comes when you realize you're no longer waiting for an apology that'll never come. It comes when you wake up one morning, look in the mirror, and no longer see a man who was betrayed, but a man who survived it. Who rose from it. So here's to anyone reading this, standing on the edge, wondering if they'll ever feel whole again. You will. One step at a time. One hard truth at a time. And when you finally let go of the version of the life you thought you had, you'll make room for the one you were always meant to build.